Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. But today I want to talk about how to protect yourself if you're going through customs. Now, we've all seen the recent headlines coming out of the United States. There are some people that were detained by the US government that don't seem like they should have been detained. And I'm not necessarily adjudicating that or the politics of the situation, but you should know your rights as you are going into or out of any country around the planet. They all have different laws, but also the practical steps to ensure your privacy through security when customs basically is looking at you, whether you're entering or leaving a foreign country. And so with that, let's talk about those practical steps, because it starts with having a plan. Essentially, you should have a trusted contact outside of that country, maybe in your home country, a friend, a family member that knows your itinerary, knows when your plane is going to land, and essentially understands that you, once you land and get through customs, are going to contact them to let them know that you are safe and you don't have any issues. And if they don't hear from you within a specific amount of time, like let's say they're tracking your flight and your flight lands on time at noon, and basically you're not hearing from them by 5 p.m. or you're not calling them by 5 p.m., now they are contacting potentially your country's embassy in the country that you're at, or the consulate, or maybe they're contacting an attorney in country ASAP to ensure that you have some kind of legal representation, because obviously you would have already made contact. So make sure you have a plan. Next one up is to actually secure your devices. So encrypt the phone using a strong password. That's super, super important. I recommend 14 or more characters and then through 4 character sets. So my phone, for example, I believe has a 15 or 16 character password from 4 character sets, which is uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and then special characters like question mark, exclamation point, dash, those kinds of things. You set that up and you fully encrypt your iPhone or your Android, as well as your laptop, enabling things like BitLocker in Windows and encryption in Apple and all of that. You are basically making it more difficult to break into. On top of it, before you land, remove biometrics and voice activation, especially from mobile phones. In other words, they can't compel you essentially to put your thumb or your face in front of the phone to unlock it, or use your voice to basically unlock it as well. And so that basically makes it significantly harder, as you have to manually type in a password that you are refusing to type in. On top of it, shut the phone down and turn it off before you hit customs. Breaking into a turned off phone is vastly harder, especially without biometrics or voice activation, because the phone basically goes into before load mode, so it's much harder to even use hacking utilities against it. And so you then can't be compelled very easily to open your phone. It would have to be turned on and nothing would be readily apparent. On top of it, you can turn off notifications on your screen as well. And so like if somebody is texting you, they can't basically see it here in the United States. If let's say I text you and I'm a criminal and you're a criminal and we're criming together, and I text you about something, if a police officer sees that come up in notifications on your lock screen, that actually is an exception to the law. They can use that against you, and that has been proven in court. Now, some phones require a password basically typed in before biometrics use when you turn the phone back on. So be aware of that, but I still recommend removing biometrics due to potential software vulnerabilities in your phone that, let's say, maybe they found a technique to hack around that they haven't told anybody yet, and that does happen. Next up, make sure that any sensitive sites like social media or banking have unique passwords and multi-factor authentication, so it's harder for customs to try to break into those sites as well. So in other words, if they're looking at you and they're saying, hey, Nick, let's go to your social media account on Facebook or whatever, because they want to look at it to see if I'm, let's say, saying negative things about the country or something along those lines, basically refusing to do that and then enforcing things like MFA, which they can't use because my phone's not on and I won't unlock it, makes it vastly harder for any kind of customs to get into it. And again, anywhere around the world. Next one is carry as little data as possible. The less pictures on your phone, the better. In other words, nothing that they could potentially compel you to open and then see would get there. Also, formally disconnecting iCloud, Google Drive, anywhere where you're storing or syncing pictures before you land makes a lot of sense as well, because then you're forced to have to log in. And again, multi-factor authentication can help you with this. So make sure that you're doing these kinds of things to make it as hard as humanly possible for customs to essentially look at this. Again, if you're coming in legally, with a passport and you have a visa, if the incoming country requires a visa, then there should be no reason to look at this kind of stuff. And if you can, for whatever reason, my best recommendation is, especially if you're going to be there for a short period of time, in other words, you're going to be there for a few days and then you're going to come on back or whatever, carry burners with no footprint on them whatsoever. So when I've gone to adversarial countries in the past, like China, Cambodia, which is now on the adversarial list, et cetera, and I've been there, I don't carry my primary technology. What I do is I carry burner equipment so that if it's ever seized from me, stolen, whatever it is, there is no access to any of my critical stuff. And the only thing on there is, let's say, the most critical context I would need for that job at that time. And most of my phone numbers I have memorized if I'm calling home or calling a friend. So it's super important to know that. It's super important to understand that. And it's also super important to keep yourself safe. And if you're traveling in and out of a country where you may potentially have issues with this, having this plan in place, having all of this security in place, disconnecting all of this, encrypting everything, et cetera, is going to go a long way to ensure that you're not making it easy for them to come up with some kind of excuse, whether it's legitimate or not, to detain you in some way, shape, or form, especially if you're a legitimate traveler on a legitimate visa inside the country leaving or outside of the country coming in. So there you go. That is your news of the day. And quite frankly, best of luck in all your travels. I'll see you next time. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private and secure and not detained. Take care.